Yeah. So when it comes to a lot of the justifications, because businesses make or managers make about why people need to come back to the office, what we kind of categorize them into kind of three different categories. There are legitimate reasons why people should be working from the office more, if not full time, and there's a ton of not legitimate reasons. And I'm sure many people that are listening can have heard a lot of those. But there's also ones that, or what we call false equivalencies, where they sound like they should be right, but they're really not. So, as far as legitimate reasons, there's actually not that many of them. And we're not going to be able to list them all, but like some of the big ones that might be easier for people to relate to are things like collaboration. So like when we are together in the office, like our team, we use our office time together as what we call our scheming time, where we kind of do our brainstorming, our planning, our working together on stuff. It's easier to share things when we're like, in the offices next door or just down the hall. And that kind of stuff is a lot is it's a lot easier of an experience to have that kind of collaboration. Collaboration is still doable, virtually, but it's just seems to be more
Well,
energy.
for us, it's really like we have collaboration tools
Yeah.
that we use in the office. We have a space that is dedicated that we use specifically for collaboration.
Yeah, big
Um,
whiteboards and TVs and stuff like that. That makes it
right.
all.
So we've intentionally designed a space to be able to perform this task because collaboration is an essential. Everything that we do within Roman 3 is based from a collaborative model. And it is central to everything that we do, and it is one of the core activities that we engage in. And as such, the best place for us to collaborate is in the office because we have specifically designed the supports and services and tools and technology around that.
Yeah.
That and it gives us an opportunity to also, continue to build rapport with people in another setting.
Right. And a lot of what you're kind of saying of having the space and the place is kind of the another reason, a legitimate reason why there's a working at the office has benefits, and that's access to equipment. So like, we have our collaboration tools and equipment. I almost work full time from the office because I've got a nice setup, multiple screens and tools and resources. They're all kind of right at my fingertips, and lugging all that stuff home with my crazy busy family makes it really challenging to kind of have that space. So a lot of the equipment I wouldn't move back to my home office. I would keep kind of here at our office building, and that equipment access is another legitimate reason, because some things you can't have. If you got one big expensive piece of equipment like printers or whatever your company uses, having that in the one location for everyone to access makes sense. You can't buy that for everybody. So those are
Right.
another legitimate reason for people coming back to the office.
Yeah. As you said, there's also a whole host of illegitimate reasons or garbage reasons that are kind of used as excuses. And I think that's the biggest thing, is that I see them as excuses to pull people back to the office.
Right.
Um, and some of them just drive me nuts. More and more recently, there's been this kind of idea that the only way to really, create a close-knit team, is that you have to be in person to do that. The only way to, I used the word rapport earlier, like, when we are collaborating, yeah, being in person gives us another opportunity to build that rapport amongst our team. But there's this idea that started to kind of permeate a lot of business thought, a lot of business articles, that saying that the only way to build rapport or build a healthy culture is to force people back to the office. And that is just not true. It
Yeah, we
requires,
touched on that our last podcast, talking about the comments from Malcolm Gladwell.
yeah, exactly. I don't want to get on my soapbox again because I'll go off on a tangent,
This will
and
be a 45. This will be like a 4-hour podcast.
yeah, I'll keep the ranting to a manageable level.
Okay.
Um, But like that is one excuse that is presented that to me is a false equivalent. It's people are saying it's to do one thing, but it does not accomplish that.
Yeah.
Or it's illegitimate reason, whatever.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I'll
like, yeah. So I mean, like I would put that under the not legitimate
yeah,
reasons because like so part of it, and we talk about this in a lot of our training, because we use a lot of psychology and how we build our courses, how we build our content, and everything like that. And um, one of the things that comes up a lot when you talk about, well, it's always been done that rapport is built from people being beside each other in proximity, or it's
right.
always been done that the manager walks by the desk to see make sure everyone's working. And that's what we call, or what we call it, but it's called the implicit bias to convention.
Yeah.
When you are thinking the old way is the only way or the right way, or I only want to do things the way that it has been done, you're assuming the old way is better, or how it used to be was better. What you're comfortable with is better.
And I
And
think
that's
that last bit is the really important part. It's often default to your comfort zone,
yeah.
right? This is what I know already. I know how to manage a team in person. I know how to check my team's progress in person.
Mhm.
So because I already know how to do this, this is what we're going to do.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, and that idea, that implicit bias to convention, is something that probably is the heart of a lot of reasons. It's not a reason into itself, but it's where a lot of the, well, yeah, I'm used to it. I'm comfortable with it. I like it when people are here. Like we've talked to, like, different people, like, at big law firms, and they're like, yeah, the managing partner wants everyone to come back to the office just because that's what they're used to, and those kinds of things. And that implicit bias to convention kind of is how a lot of business decisions get made. And it's not necessarily the best way to do it, but that's where a lot of, I think, the heart of most of these not legitimate excuses, as you said, kind of come from. Just like another one, is justifying the office space cost. Well, we pay for these
Yeah.
buildings, we pay for this kind of stuff, we want people to fill them. And like, well, yeah, but there's also throwing good money after bad. If you realize that if you've been taught that there's a better way to do things that doesn't require those spaces, isn't that new learning probably worth exploring, instead of just, again, implicit by the convention. We've always had office spaces, and you're actually trying to do things a way that may not require those office space costs.
Yeah, I think those are good points. I think there's another reason that is not ever actually spoken about this way, but I think a lot of people are being forced back to the office just because their manager wants to look over their shoulder.
Yeah.
Uh, the manager feels like they can't trust their team to work remotely. They can't trust that the work is going to be done, or we talk a lot about confident leadership, and the death of leadership. One of the three deaths of leadership is micromanagement. And I've seen this one a lot. Unfortunately, I have a lot of personal experience with this one, and it's kind of my pet peeve. Um, but oftentimes micromanagement stems from a lack of confidence, stems from a lack of confidence in the manager's ability to lead and motivate and ensure that work is being done. And I see this as one of the reasons why many people are being forced back into the office without good cause, just because somebody wants to be able to monitor and watch closely what people are doing. The example that you talked about, talking with our colleague in the legal industry, of the managing partner wanting people to come back so that they can physically be in the office and monitor what people are doing, right? Highly intelligent, capable professional, not the strongest management and leadership style.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's kind of when you mentioned the false equivalency before, but I
Yeah.
think this is actually probably where it really does live, is it's easier for managers to stay on top of things and have oversight when everyone is in person. And I think that is a false equivalency, because having people around does not necessarily it might make it more comfortable and more, and simpler. It requires less effort and it requires less learning curve, but it doesn't mean that it's actually a better way to manage and to do oversight. I think that's where the false equivalency kind of comes in
You're
there.
right. And we talk about this a fair amount we've talked about it in different podcasts. We talk about it in different YouTube videos and articles and our training, the whole idea of the difference between being busy and being productive.
Right.
And if you want to guarantee that your staff are merely being busy, haul them back into the office for no good reason. You will see that people are busy at their computers. They will be engaged in something, and they will look like they are working, and tasks will be completed. But if you actually want people to be productive, if you want people to get the most tasks accomplished within the time frame that they are given, you have to speak to what they need. And if you have not sold them on a legitimate need to be back in the office, then all you're doing is creating discontent.
Right.
Potentially creating disengagement, which is a very expensive problem in our workplaces.